Alrighty, this is going to be attempt number 2 for this video, and what we're going to be doing in this one, we're going to get started on setting up our points. So for example, you're going to see some weird changes here, so just ignore what you see. So after 5 seconds, the points are going to change to 10,000 on the client. Just ignore that. So what we're going to want to do, so actually, sorry, you won't see that. Removed it. But make it so that every time a new player joins, you should be able to see their points at the bottom right of our screen. So for example, as a client, now I have 4,400 points. I want to see both the server's and the client's value, and however other many clients there are in that points list at the bottom right. So that way you can see what every client's points are. So let's go ahead and begin. So I have some example code for this as a quick little test. And the things that we're going to have open, don't really need the game state open, but we're going to have Nazi Zombie Game Mode.cpp and our player states open. At least I don't think we're going to need the game state. So if we go down to our post login function on Nazi Zombie Game Mode, this is what I added here. It's simply looping all of the player states that are stored inside of the player array. So the player array is a variable game state base right here, and it's simply an array of all player states, and it is replicated. So what we're doing is get the game state, we cast it, don't really need to cast it, and then we get the player array variable, so we're looping through this variable here, storing each player state inside a P state. So we check if P state's valid. If it is, we go through and we cast it to our Nazi Zombie player state. So that means you're going to have to include Nazi Zombie player state. So it's the same. So include Nazi Zombie player state. Then all I'm doing is I'm simply printing out logs such as the points and such. So that was just a test to make sure everything worked. So I'm going to clean this up. Actually, what we can do is, since cast is a null pointer check, simply going to do for loop for the player array, and then an if statement. So if we can cast P state to a Nazi Zombie player state, then we're good to go. Then we have access to our client's player state. Now we want to create an event and a client RPC to trigger that event. So in Nazi Zombie player state.h at the top, we're going to declare a new event delegate, like so. It's going to take in no parameters, so remove one param, and you should only have just the name. So I'm going to call this one OnNewPlayerJoined. And we're going to copy our blueprint assignable, uProperty there, and do it again. So f points change is now OnNewPlayerJoined. Change new points to newPlayerJoined. Next up, we need to create a public function. That'll be the client RPC. So I want this to fire on the client. So actually, I guess better, yeah, we're gonna go this route. So u function client gonna be void client underscore client new implementation, and we're gonna generate the implementation for the implementation function. Let's go back to our game mode. Simply gonna do pn state. We're gonna call client underscore new player joined. Simple as that, because remember, game mode only exists on the server, so post login's only firing on the server. So we have to use our client RPC to make our way down to the client. And then we have this. Let's go back to our HUD widget. player HUD w_HUD to the graph. And here's where we actually set up our onPointsChanged event. So we have a simple delay where we bind this event. We can actually remove this delay. Let's link it up. We're essentially going to be doing the same thing. So we're going to be binding the event here. However, the problem is if we bind the event immediately, and well, we can bind it immediately, but if we go to try to broadcast this event, it will not fire. The client is firing too soon, so to speak. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a timer and call another function that we make. So I'm just going to do void new player joined. Create the implementation. Put it right below the client RPC. Inside of client new player joined implementation, we're just going to do get world get timer manager dot set timer. Create a timer handle. So f timer handle t temp this a Nazi zombie player state on new player joined. Then we want a delay. So I want the delay to be, we'll just do something like 2 seconds, I guess. False, because we do not want it to loop. Inside of OnNewPlayerJoined, we're going to take our new player joined variable and we're going to broadcast it. Wow. So hopefully this will trigger it. So I'm going to go ahead and close down the editor so I can restart it. All we're going to be doing in this video to keep it short is we're going to simply be getting the game state and counting how many elements are inside of the player array whenever this event fires. Then in the next video, we will continue with setting it up. Just gotta wait for the this little freeze to finish. Whenever we open that HUD graph, and we're gonna bind that event. So here we have as Nazi zombie player state in our event construct. Drag off. We're gonna do bind event to player joined. Couldn't think of the name. Connect the execute up. We're going to add a custom event. It's going to be on new player joined. Here, all we're going to do is get game state. We don't need to cast it to, what do you call it? I'm trying to think. Player array. We're going to get the length just to see how long it is. Print string. The string we're going to print is the length of the array. So compile save. See what happens. Server printed 2, and the delay kicked in, and the client printed 2. So that, worked. Get our way from post login to our player state. We triggered our little event here. That should occur anytime a new player joins. So I'm going to do a quick test outside of the editor. So I'm going to create the server. Wait for the console window to come up. I'm going to do the client. To the bottom right. Cannot move the window around just yet because I got to wait for the freeze. For the huge list of errors to appear. Printed 2. So it is firing on the client, and we should actually see it on the server too. which it also printed out 2 as well. So that worked as intended. How long has this been going on? 10 minutes, not too bad. So go ahead and end it here because we have our event. And for the most part, the rest of it's actually just going to be handled inside of Blueprint because there's not really much of a need to, you know, go the C++ route. All we're simply going to be doing is we need to figure out, you know, whose points changed. So we may even have just a separate event for this because it's going to be, I think we're going to be doing it index based. So we're going to have, at least this is my thought as of right now, this will probably change. But when the points change on, let's say, client 1, so he's index 1, so index 0 being the server, index 1 being the client. The client shoots a zombie, his points change. The server, so tells that the points changed and stuff like that, just due to how we have our logic set up. The server is then going to figure out which index that client, um, is inside of the player array. And then it's going to replicate that down to all other clients by passing in that index. And that index is what's going to be what drives our live points list that we set up before. Because this live points list is of type w underscore live points, our widget, and all it is just this. So that's my thought process for right now. I kind of want to try to figure out a better way to do this, but I'll just be thinking in the meantime. As usual, if you liked what I'm doing and you want to help support me, a link to my Patreon's in the description. If you have any questions or anything like that, you can also find a link to my Discord server down there. And as always, I will see you in the next one.